Healthy Food, Healthy Earth program. And while we canceled last year's annual gathering, here we are. And so it is great to see you. You look great. This is also the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act. And I'll get back to this tomorrow when we have a section where I'm allowed to speak on pulling it all together. I do want, before I go any further, to make sure you know that we have begun the Sierraclub Healthy Food, Healthy Earth Library. And it has 2 books given to us by the National Food and Ag Grassroots Networking. One is At the Farm, and the other is this year's The Farm Bill, by the guy that writes this book, Every Farm Bill. These belong to you. They've been given to the chapter, and they will be open there at the beginning of our library, where Susan Patton is sitting, with some other books for you that they may have an interest in. And I'm hoping Jim Embry, as soon as I introduce him, will be identifying some other books, like Farming While Black, that is now being held up. That will be added to our library. I have so much that I can say, but I'm not going to say it now because my job on this program was not to speak, but to find speakers. And we have a great day for you. This morning we have Jim Embry, Representative Keel, and then a panel discussion that I will moderate. This afternoon we have several programs, including another panel that will be discussing what's happening in Henry County, sponsored or engineered by the Berry Center. And of course this evening we have Berry and some other folks that have grown our food to introduce to you. Tomorrow we continue the discussion. Aloma leads us off, and we have a panel on soil health, and then I will help wrap things up by trying to pull all of this together and talk about the direction we're going. I want to introduce all these papers are supposed to be exactly where I wanted them. All right. It is an honor and a pleasure to introduce Jim Embry. He is the founder and director of the Sustainable Communities Network. Jim was born in Richmond, Kentucky, a grandson of small farmers who were also social activists. This family legacy of activism was passed down to him as a 10-year-old participant in the civil rights movement. Jim has participated in most of the major social justice movements of his era and now believes that the sustainability movement encompasses all the other movements. Jim maintains that the local food and sustainable agriculture movement is the foundation of a sustainable community. As a personal privilege, it is my privilege to say that he is a friend and mentor, not only of me, but of my daughter, Garrett Ratty, who we had hoped would be here with us today, but she got a better invitation to go to COP27, and so she had to call her father and say, hey, you got outbid. But she and Jim Embry have collaborated, and it was an honor to have him with us last year when we launched this program, and as we, on May 21 to May 22, 2021, we launched this program. And after I had given my introduction, like now, Jim gave his presentation, and he made a poignant observation about several things that I had said. He said, in a sense, that our effort looked pretty white. It looked like it was off to a good start, but it was really white. And he said, you might want to add some color. And he was right. And so with that, Jim Embry, will you get us started?
Woo!
I'm right up here. On now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all, Sierraclub family, for inviting me once again to come and speak about something that's dear to all of us. Healthy farms, healthy people, and healthy, beautiful, vibrant, thriving earth. Being from Kentucky, born and raised here, I take that term, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and say, you know, we've had enough of wealth for the few people. And what we need is a common health for all the people.
Yes.
A common health for the environment, which then leads to a common healthy economy. And they're all interconnected. So I thank you all for allowing me to join you on this day. Now, the theme is looking backwards to the past to guide the future. And what I did, I also gave it a twist on the theme, which is that our ancestral vibrations guide our connections to the land. Our ancestral vibrations, and oftentimes I bring my Tibetan singing bowl and I'm opening up to symbolize vibrations. So what I want us to do, and I speak often at a lectern, you all might know you usually have your own laptop in front of you, where you can see the images in your notes as the slides change. And today we're going to be trying to look back sometimes at what the slide is saying and try to remember my notes. But the first note is that we're in this room, and again, as a species, we're in a pickle. Okay? We're in a pickle as a species. And the answers to our challenges won't just come from us few people who are sitting here. So I ask each of us to think about our own ancestors, the folks that made it, who your work is on the foundation of. Think about your ancestors on this land or on other lands, and invoke their spirit to join us today in this day-long conversation. And there can be not just human ancestors, the other flora and the fauna ancestors. But just take a moment, and I'm going to hit this Tibetan tea bowl as a calling of the ancestors to join us. Think of their names, think of their faces, think of them, and just invite them here and kind of make room if you need to. All right, I can feel them. I can feel them. Now, typically, when I organize conferences, say with my friend Will Allen at Growing Power, we would select as well a particular theme. It might be sacred soil. And I was asked to speak today about soil, agriculture, organic agriculture, regenerative agriculture, and so forth. When we organize those gatherings, sacred soil, sacred water, sacred fire, ask you to do is bring from your areas, your farm, your yard, your bioregion, some soil. And what we would do, we would have everyone kind of come up into a cauldron and pour the soil, symbolizing that we're bringing the soul spirit with us. Because we sit around as humans, with all these conversations about soil and plants and whatever, and don't invite their spirit here, like they're just inanimate and mean nothing. We would bring water. My water comes from the Kentucky River. I go get water from the river, or to the cauldron. Because again, the challenges that we face, can't be solved just by the human species alone. We must honor those spirits that are essential to our lives. So, I carry this jar of soil representing all of our soils from wherever we're from. Now, one of the reasons for changing the theme a little bit, ancestral vibrations and guide vibrations to the land, was because I was doing a commercial club. I wrote this essay a couple years ago, that's in this book, We Are Each Other's Harvest. And what I'm talking about today, in large part, is in this essay. And I have it in front here, the essay. There's a few copies, and you're welcome to them. So if you happen to be asleep and miss what I'm saying, or nodding out, or ignoring what I'm saying, you want to come back and get some ideas, most of them are in that essay, where I talk about, as Hank mentioned, my family in Madison County, Kentucky, and their legacy, and their activism, and their connection with the land. We were brought to Kentucky in 1800 in an enslaved condition. So I claim land stewardship is 1800. We were brought here, we worked the land, we learned the flora and the fauna, we learned to love the land, and our grandmamas had babies in the field in the land. Talk about soil and land, it's very close and very dear. I happened to have moved back 10 years ago to that area of Madison County where our family members were enslaved. After enslavement, they survived and thrived. In the first generation after enslavement, most all of them wound up securing property from those who stole the land. So, that's part of my history of that area where we had a church and a school and things of that nature. It's in that article. Now, this image here is an image of two friends of mine, and they're sisters, and they're twins. That's Leah and Naima Penman, who happen to be the co-directors of what Hank mentioned before, Soul Fire Farm up in upstate New York. And there was an incredible book called Farming While Black. And in my view, this book, Farming While Black, ought to be in everyone's home. And it serves as a guide for the next 25 to 50 years, I believe, of how do we create in the USA and beyond this sense of regenerative farming and what it means. And we're saying it means far more than just the soil. It means human souls. Souls and soil are interrelated. So, take time to get a copy of this book and Farming While Black and help guide our efforts. Now, this idea of looking backwards is an ancient tradition, probably in all of our different cultural legacies. The idea that in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. This is a symbol from the Akan people in Ghana that I refer to a lot, which says you can take these elements of the past, these ancestral vibrations and the legacy of where we've been, then they can become the eggs and seeds of the future. They can seed the future. The Sankofa bird. So think about that. Now, I'm going to take this way back. Way back. Okay? Many of us understand, there's certain ideas about the universe forming and what oftentimes they call the Big Bang Theory. I use the word oftentimes, it's called the Big Seeding. I think the Big Bang is too masculine. I call it the Big Seeding. When the universe and stardust begin to form and create planets and so forth. Now, we say as scientists, the Earth's been around, Earth and the Sun, about 4.6 billion years. Now, ask yourself the question, this is about soil and dirt. When did dirt come on the scene? Sometimes young folks say, OG, Embry, man, you were as old as dirt. I said, yeah, I've been around a long time. I was around the dinosaurs, so I know something. But as I looked into it, dirt began to form about 500 million years ago. So dirt's pretty old. 500 million years ago, began to form. So we talk about this idea of regenerative agriculture, soil. We're talking about humans being stewards, impacting soil that around for 500 million years. And this dirt and soil might know something. It just might know something. And then around 200 million years ago, we saw the plants and trees with seeds and fruit begin to form. And then us as a species, we came along maybe 2 million years ago. So humans are seen oftentimes as the youngest species on the earth. Humans. We came along late in the game. The earth said, well, if I bring humans along, I've got to get this in place, I've got to get this in place, I've got to get this in place, because they're going to be really weak in all kinds of ways. But as a species, we've evolved into one that's quite predatory, devastating of the earth. We think we're superior to everything else. We think we know it all. And now, as the youngest species, we have the heaviest footprint. And that's our challenge. And this is what's evolved out of this evolution of dirt, soil, plants, animals, flowers, trees. This is wonderful, great, earthly, biodiverse planet. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. But reading this is not just land, soil that is broken, but more importantly, our relationship to land. We can't meaningfully proceed with healing, with restoration, with regeneration, without changing the story. So our work is, as we come here, as Sierraclub members, and the Sierraclub story, and our hats we wear with other folks, our workplace, our faith place, is how do we change the story? It becomes also how do we understand the story? You know, trees ain't got no problem loving, connecting with soil and dirt. Why? Because they have their roots running all in the soil. And these trees, these ones out here, you know, they're communicating. Not just here in Carrollton. These trees and coffee trees in Riverwood, Orange, in California. Because the network of below ground is as magical, more magical, than our wireless internet. What if we all understood that story about soil, the underground network? So in some ways, part of our work is trying to become rooted in America, become rooted in Turtle Island, become rooted on the earth, like we belong here. So these images here I share as our own personal quest. How can I become more rooted? How can I become more responsible? How can I become more aware? And how can I topple this homocentric view that we know everything and we're superior to everything else? How can we change that story? Now, in our country's founding was based upon a certain story or a narrative. And part of the narrative was that the European colonists were fighting the motherland, Great Britain, because they were being taxed. That's true. Or because they were fighting for liberty and justice and freedom for all. Now that story needs to be challenged. Because think about it. If the goal was freedom and rights for all and liberty, then why weren't white men getting on property given the right to vote? Why weren't white women given the right to vote and hold office? And then why weren't Africans who were enslaved given their freedom? And why weren't indigenous people able to keep their land? It was about liberty and justice for all. We give those folks too much credit. So we know a new story needs to be evolved, because in fact, we say America is stolen land from indigenous people, and labor was stolen from African people to do what? To do agriculture, to work in the soil, to work in the land. So we talk about regeneration. We talk about soil. We're talking about how do we regenerate not just the actual in-the-ground soil conditions, but how do we also regenerate relationships with all the people who've been bereft of freedoms, rights, liberties, health, and so forth. So we're also regenerating relationships. So I'm going to speak today about two different lenses on how to look back. And one of the lenses is the lens of indigenous peoples. This here is a map. There were some 500 plus tribes, as many of us may know, in North America, Turtle Island. So in our movement forward, I think it's important that we all have a much greater understanding, a much greater appreciation, a much greater embracing of indigenous tradition, indigenous knowledge and culture who reside here. And in Kentucky, that might be having a greater understanding, a greater awareness of the folks who lived here before settler colonialism, like the Shawnee, Chickasaw, the Cherokee, the Weechee. Now, we're right here in Louisville. We're right here in Louisville, and you go to Louisville, it's like every car has an Indian name. You know, now, so anyway, that's part of the lens that I think is important to talk about regeneration, organic farming, permaculture farming, and so forth. The second lens, to me, that's very important, is this lens of George Washington Carver. Now, some people are still debating his relevance. So I'm going to point out as we move along some key points of why he is relevant. And in my view, if you're talking about farming, agriculture, regenerative, organic, and you don't have him in the forefront, it's not just him, it's many other people along the way. He represents a whole cadre of people who were thinking and acting, including my great-grandfather and mother, who was a friend of his. I've spent 12 years. I've known Carver my whole life. I spent the last 12 years, though, studying him intensely. And I'm still finding things out about him, of what he was doing. And some folks tell me, oh, but no, you lectured last year on Carver. We spent 80 years making him invisible. He died in 43. We spent 80 years making him invisible, and we think one lecture on Carver is enough. Anyway, so here we have North America, as we know, and part of the indigenous cosmology is they call North America Turtle Island. You ever wonder why? Maybe some of us know the story. What they say is that the earth was just all water, and the turtle went down to the ocean bottoms and agreed to let all this soil get on her back. And then she brought it up and deposited it. It became Turtle Island, North America. Again, these folks have been here 10, 20, 30,000 years at least. They might know something. Agriculture being regenerative. These folks were breeding corn for 5,000 years. They might know something. That's what I'm saying. Now, when I was in Detroit living for about 5 years, I was a director of what's called the Bond Center, and I worked with a lot around urban agriculture. And within some of our urban farms, we would intentionally have the young folks in particular build these turtles out of straw bale construction as a way to remind young folks that this land is called Turtle Island. One day, when I was there, I was asked by a friend of mine whose grandfather was a Hopi elder. And he was coming into Detroit, he wanted a tour. I took him around and I showed him the river that had signs saying, don't eat the fish because of mercury. I showed him the incinerator burning trash, putting all kinds of toxins in the air. I took him around to all the brown fields in Detroit to describe all the heavy metals and toxins in the soil. And he came here, this turtle, and he bent down and he cried for quite a long time. And he said, says, it just hurts me to see the condition of Turtle Island here in Detroit. He said, I just pray and wish that you people who have come here recently, the last 500 years, however we came here, whether we came in chains or on planes, he said, I wish you people could love Turtle Island like we do. I thought about this, and hey, actually, it's a true story. When he said that, when I was listening to him, I thought about myself. I said, I've never cried because the water was polluted. The soil was toxic. I said, my friends in the environmental groups, Sierraclub, Greenpeace, Al Gore, Gore. I ain't never seen Hank, I'm just playing with Hank now. I ain't never seen Hank cry about not the roof, the water, and myself either. I do now. So again, they might know something about caring for the earth. Now, I'm going to let us read these quotes. I'm going to go around here and try to get my view on it. It says, one of the peculiarities of the white race's presence in America is how little attention has been applied to it. As a people, wherever we've been, we have never really intended to be. The Indians did, of course, experience movements of population, but in general, their relation to place was based upon old usage and association, upon inherited memory, tradition, veneration. This land was their homeland. The first and greatest American Revolution, which has never been superseded, was the coming of people who did not look upon the land as homeland. Now, y'all might think those are my quotes. He's a crazy-ass black guy with dreads on and talk about white people. And I what's my quote? What's my quote? Anybody know where it came from? The quote came from? Okay. Well, here's Hank said, well, Jim, you're talking, lay some things out what we should be doing. Okay? What we should be doing. I'm trying to do that. This quote came from this book right here. Anybody know Wendell Berry? Anybody know Wendell Berry? Matter of fact, I drove almost right by his house. Coming here from Richmond. Now, I know you said I'm making this stuff up. I know you said, Jim, make that up. Wendell Berry didn't say that. So here's the book right here. You gotta go to Google. Okay, it's right here. You can read it. Now, this was written in 1977. And who's it published by? Sierraclub. So I'm saying, well, how many of y'all have the book? How many?
Oh.
How many of you are reading it? chapter, he lays out 12 things to do. 12 things to do. Now the thing is, if we've been following what he was saying, we could be a lot better off than we are now. Sometimes we read stuff, don't apply. So, again, some of you all maybe have visited on the farm side of the farm, Winter and Tanya. And tonight, again, as Hank said, we're going to be blessed to hear from your daughter, Mary. So I would say, there's one of your assignments. Get the book. If you already read it, read it again. I own 2 copies. So if I let one away, I always got one. This has been, marked up and whatever. So again, this is one of the words, not mine. Okay? Now, elements of this indigenous name. There's a movement around the world, oftentimes led by indigenous cultures, like in the Americas, Ecuador, Bolivia, so forth. There's a movement last couple of decades. This whole idea of the legal status, that's my alarm, the legal status of the earth, the flora, the fauna, and so forth. That means writing it in to legal code. That means writing it into your constitution. So the Sierraclub, I'm saying, have you all taken the rights of nature movement and put it into your constitution locally here in Kentucky or nationally? Or see, Brooke over here from Organic Kentucky Association. Is it in your bylaws? Again, giving legal status, because what about a healthy earth? It's going to mean changing the narrative and changing how we write constitutions, other kinds of legal framework. There's also a movement among people who are indigenous called seed repatriation. And what they're saying is that to heal the soil, we must bring back those seeds that evolved with the soil. The soil isn't separate. There's been a whole evolution. Thousands of years with certain seeds and plants and whatever within a certain soil. Now, I'm a wine drinker. You go to Europe, you go to Italy, France. Certain wines, like champagne, have to be grown where? In the Champagne region. The terroir, the land, the soil, determines that wine or could be that cheese. Same idea. This is an incredible video that complements this idea of seed repatriation. It's called Seed Mother Coming Home. And that is people who are indigenous are going to the museums. They're going maybe to U of L, UK, Princeton, Harvard, and say, you all got to go to the museums. You got all kinds of our body parts. You got our drums, our spears, our pottery, and our seeds. And we want them back home, where they belong. And there are different universities and museums who are doing that. Going into their archives, collecting things that are there, and sending them back to the people. Anyway, so it's what that movement idea of healthy earth, and how do we regenerate these relationships? Listen, a few other, there's all kinds of wonderful books, I can describe. One that I have read and rereading now is Great Sweetgrass. Have a you can look at it. Another one, Healing Grounds, Healing Soil, Healing Land. My friend Liz lifts up the legacy of indigenous people and African cultures in the USA. Healing Grounds. And matter of fact, she has almost a whole chapter on George Washington Carver. There's a kind of growing movement, actually, or a growing awareness. I was invited just here a few weeks ago to one of the books on Carver was written by Rock and Hope. It's called An American Biography by Carver. Published in 1943. It was one of the only two books that Carver authorized as autobiographies. This is one of them. It's out of print. Because of my work in writing, I was invited. It was published by Doubleday originally, and I was invited to write the foreword. For this book. So anyway, in some ways, in Montana, 20 years ago, they passed a state law in Montana that requires every student K through 12 to spend time in a curriculum that's called Education for All, state law, K through 12. So I asked the question, bring it to Kentucky. How do Sierraclub members begin to apply this within your organization? Or organic ag? Or organic Kentucky? How do you bring it into your curriculum if you're serious about, if you're serious about regeneration? Okay? They might know something. This was prepared by the elders there in Montana. Mother-in-law. I'm sorry, I got 10 minutes, okay. I missed this movie here some time ago. Heard the movie, looked that up. Who's this guy right here? Anybody know this guy here? Okay? Some of the new people, this is John Muir. I read about him often, trying to understand his legacy, what he was doing, of course, about Sierraclub. But now, right here at the park, we're near the spirit of where he walked. Did y'all know he did a 1,000-mile journey back in 1867? And he walked, he said, to Louisville, right near here. So I hope you all invoked his spirit. A little earlier, this is his trek. He talks about, this is his trek memoirs. He talks about coming through Louisville. And he talks about, he said he was walking, strolling among the old Kentucky oaks, rejoicing in his visions of pines and so forth. The great oaks seemed to spread their arms in welcome. So his words about Kentucky. Now, here's what he saw when he came through here. Here's what he saw. These great, great oaks, elms, pines, is what he saw. These trees is what he saw. Are they around now? No. Because the same mentality, the same economic, political, cultural structures that would blow off mountaintops, that would kill the buffalo, are the ones that would cut down all these massive trees that John Muir talked about before he went west. The room is gone now. Now it's part, of the, you all have a wonderful legacy of fighting against damming River Gorge. I was a UK student at that time. I recall marching and protesting and being a part of that effort that saved the Red River. But if you go to the museum there, they'll show you pictures of the forest has been clear cut. The trees are all new. Hope you all knew that. This is how the U.S. looked in terms of forest cover. 1620, almost half. 1850, a little bit less. 1990, smaller acreage is how the forests look. When we talk about regenerating soil, we're talking also about reforesting areas, not just urban areas. This is like big work, not real simple work. You all understand that. When he went south, he also went into some Cherokee folks, and part of his legacy is that sometimes he was derogatory. he spoke negatively about Native Americans, black folk. And he saw the Cherokee folk called him, you can read about it. Things were kind of derogatory, but here are people who was the remnants of the Muleteers that were being forced to move out of Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia. And he was saying, oh, they look dirty. The homes are all, whatever. So the point is that while Nero was traveling south, people who did this were being forced to move and then dying out west. So my point is, as we're writing the story, it's important to take these timelines, these maps, and do an overlay that might go 500 years. We also ran into African Americans who were recently emancipated 2 years before. And he described conditions that were before him. Conditions that were, looked poor. Yeah, I would think so. Now, got a few more minutes here. This question of soil and regeneration. This quote here ought to be on the phones, the laptops, the office walls of all food and ag organizations. This right here. It tells my whole story what I'm talking about. It says, an injustice to the soil is an injustice to the farmer. And he was talking a lot about black farmers, okay? He didn't all. He was very, humanitarian. And injustice to the farmer is an injustice to the soil. That's quantum thinking. That says we're all the same source, we're all interconnected, we're all interdependent. That's quantum thinking. Now, by the way, real quickly, Einstein was a good friend of Carver's, as was Edison, as was Burbank, all the presidents, Henry Ford. Edison and Einstein said he was the greatest scientist of their era. And they weren't too bad, were they? That was their view of him. I'm thinking, how dare somebody come to me and tell me, oh, Carver, we know enough about him. He don't matter much. Do you know the history of what he was doing? He literally saved the South. All of his work around intercropping, crop rotation, composting, all things we talk about now, about organic farming, he was doing it in the 1890s up to 1943. He was doing all that. When the boll weevil hit the South, talk about a recession. He came up with the idea of growing peanuts, soybeans, sweet potatoes, and cocoa. And literally, according to the authors, saved the South. And we're saying, today, we're talking about saving soil from washing out of Kentucky, down to Ohio, Mississippi to the Gulf. And we're saying, but Carver ain't relevant to that. So these horses want to heck about his life. Now, real quickly, I have found good food co-op 50 years ago. We found out 3 principles: local food, healthy food, and organic food. Been for a long time. We celebrated the year anniversary this year. So my point is, if you want to help regenerate soil, it also means when you're growing the food, where's it going to go? What are you going to do with it? What we're saying, their future lies in cooperatives. My cousin Tiffany and I helped with other folks before the Kentucky Black Farmers Cooperative. So we're saying, for the Sierraclub, something to do. What can we do to help you? Go back to your county and form a co-op. It's real simple. Form co-op. The money circulates. Y'all know all that. I was a co-writer of this book here, and a photographer, back in 2008. And part of what I wrote was about soil. gardening, urban ag, things like that. What about pictures here? Notice her hands, her fingers have what? Black soil. This picture, I call it gold dust, which says the black soil is more valuable than gold. I was asked by folks from the London Association to do a feature article for their magazine, keynote at the conference, and wrote a few things in the college tour. It was about the idea of keep things in dirt. This is how Harper grew up. He lost his mother and his father before he was born. His mom was kidnapped. He was just 6 months old. People who owned them wound up raising Carter's brother. And because he was sickly, he spent his first 5 or 6 years in the forest, in the garden, the plants. And they were the people who taught him, plant people. The animal people taught him about this connection with soil and the earth, and how he grew up. The point is, what if all the kids in our country grew up like this, with gardens in their schools, where you're outside in the garden as part of your curriculum? So I will again leave you that the future lies in, again, this is a picture of Carver, but represents many other people. So our job is to see ourselves in this picture of our future efforts to regenerate soil, relationships, and create a healthy earth. I'm going to skip through a number of things here. Again, the idea of regenerative agriculture, Rodell said they coined the word. You know, it's funny how there are folks who've been doing this work for thousands of years. I don't know why, but people want to discover something. Like, oh, Columbus, I discovered America. The Taino said, look, we've been here for 20,000 years. Oh, you discovered? Oh, okay, we've been here for a long time. So we got to quit that whole discovery mentality. Like Rodell was saying, we gave the word regenerative agriculture. But what we're saying is there's a weakness within that. People globally are oftentimes using agroecology, which encompasses a much more, and it encompasses the cultural, the political landscape, not just the physical landscape. Now, this picture here, does it look familiar?
Tardigrade.
A what?
A tardigrade?
Might be right. I'm sure a few other pictures, and some of you can recognize them. Recognize this picture? How about that one? How about that one? Well, these are all parts of the soil. These are all parts of the soil. This was the September issue of National Geographic. It's about soil regeneration. Okay? These are all the fungi, the microbiomes, you know, the microscopic. You got to take a high resolution scope to get a picture of that. The worms and nematodes, you know, and all the things that are in the soil constitute the soil. Not just potassium and calcium and whatever. It's a whole living system. Now, I mention this because Carver's specialty was fungi. He's called the peanut wizard. You ever know that? He worked with all kinds of potatoes, cotton, whatever. But his specialty was fungi. Why? Because he understood the need to understand what's in the ground to achieve results on top of the ground. So I'm saying within soil regeneration, we're going to have a class, okay, on fungi. He had four fungi named after him. He said, y'all quit. I don't know. Because he was finding all these species. He said 800 varieties up to the fungi aquarium, or the fungi museum, or whatever it's called. Okay? That was his specialty. His other stuff was his side work. Okay? This book here, The Green Vision of Ford and Carver. What they were saying was, with the regeneration, let's make almost everything that industry needs, from products that farmers grew was their vision. They had cars. One of the cars was the hood or the bottom making soybean oil. How you going on? Flax, the steering wheel. They were talking about biofuels. They're making rubber. Like rubber is made from plant, right? He was just saying make it from what's in here in the United States. All the non-dairy. All kinds of things. So this book ought to be in your library. Okay, you're talking about healthy earth. That's what we're talking about. But what happened? Ford died in the late 30s, Carbon 43, and Ford's son Edison said, "Well, I'm going to jump in with Exxon and Shell and make oil the basis of our industry, and not Kentucky farmers' products." Now, I'm going to. Okay, now, this is a book about Carver's relevance. NASA, working with Tuskegee University, were using Carver's work around the sweet potato. And he was, he made hundreds of products of sweet potato, hundreds of products, not just baking them in the oven. Okay? But he also said in his bulletins, one of the most nutritious parts of the plant are the leaves. The leaves are edible. Everybody know that? Okay? So what it is, NASA has, I call them jokingly, the astronauts up in the sky lab are growing sweet potatoes, but not for the tuber, for the leaves. They have no problem about Carver's relevance. He was friends with Gandhi. They went back and forth. His friendship with Gandhi is what led Dr. King to adopt the Gandhian nonviolent philosophy. It goes back indirectly to Gandhi, who referred to Carver. This is my Tiffany and our great-grandparents here. We came out of enslavement, one went to a Berea College, our grandfather in the middle. Next to him is Harriet, his sister. She was a midwife, herbal healer, and Tiffany's following in her footsteps as well. Okay? But our work stands upon folks like this here. And again, our great-grandfather, D.B., was friends with Carver. He came to Kentucky, to Madison County. We know these a couple times, 1915 and 1919. Called Covered Chautauqua. So I take Carver, it's like a personal connection up in here, okay? This is our house here, my house here. There was the property here. We're taking the Carver, the boys, out of New Wells, by the business here. We're still working on that. To the flowers and infinity. Now, I'm going to end up right here. I'm just going right here. This is a picture, and Brooke will chill it in a little while. This is a picture of the program for the upcoming Organic Kentucky Conference. And this is one of the keynote speakers. A guy from Missouri. He's going to talk about Sir Albert Howard, Lady Eve Balfour, Russ Steiner, J. Al Rodell, and Franklin Hiram King. Okay? Now, these are all white folk. I'm saying, you talk about the future of organic ag, and all you can do is mention these folk. Now, Robert Rodell said he was inspired by the work of Sir Albert Howard and Eve Balfour. But Sir Albert Howard went to India and spent 20 years learning from the indigenous people in India to develop his ideas. And we regard him as the father of organic ag that he learned from India. Franklin King went to Japan, China, Korea, that spent years over there saying, well, and this is his book, 40 centuries of farming, that's like 4,000 years. That's where his ideas came from. So I don't get it. I don't understand. How can you leave it with these folk that learn, the people in India, the people in China, Korea, Japan, retelling the story. Retelling the story. We have another brother, okay, in Japan, Monsoon Fuoka, natural farming. I can go on all kinds of books. A lot of great books about oil. Vandana Shiva's book called Soil, Not Oil, Soil, something like that, Soil, Not Oil. I just came back from Turin, Italy for international gathering. About 10,000 people from every country in the world. And a lot of my discussion was about soil, organic, permaculture, regenerative, agroecology, and so forth. Today we're going to have some things with them. I began this game about a year ago with the John Seed Cooperative. So we're saying everyone should become seed farmers. Years ago in COVID, when I got online trying to order seed, I couldn't find it. They were all sold out. So Sierraclub asked me something to do. Everyone, not just grow food, but grow seed and create regional seed banks. Sierraclub want to have a Sierraclub seed bank. That's resilience. That's planning how we adapt to climate change. We have seeds here from what's called the African diaspora, the Asian diaspora, and so forth. I'm going to end up this last quote, if I can. As the seed of our ancestors' dreams, we have germinated and have become trees that produce fruit, providing nourishment for the present and seeds for those who are on their way. Our dreams then also become the seeds for future generations. This work of reclaiming our sacred connection to the soil on which we are made, to the air and the water that replenish us, and to the plant and animals in our family, is a quest much bigger than a single country or continent. There's a journey that will provide a leap in development of humans as a species. This journey begins anew every single day. Thank you all.